would rely on a single cape doing this unless it was like their founder or something.
That's true. Mrs. Cauldron.
Please, Mrs. Cauldron was my mother.
Welcome to Inchworm,
The podcast in which we're inching through Worm. I'm Jenny.
and I'm Ted.
This time we read Infestation? Is that the one? 11.7.
Yeah, it's a fighty one.
Yeah, it is. It was really exciting.
Yeah. Any other overall thoughts? Should I tell you what happens in it?
I just really enjoyed seeing Faultline's crew do their thing.
I know.
They were so competent, unlike the merchants.
Yes.
And it was really fun having the two streams of action, like their thing and Taylor's quest to escape with Bryce, which you should tell us about.
Yes, I feel like the chapter can be summarized in this sentence, in the second paragraph of the chapter. Whatever her power did, Neuter stopped it. It's really delightful. So we kick things off with Faultline's crew kicking things off.
Yeah.
Neuter drops from the ceiling, touches a merchant cape who seems to have some kind of whirlwind tornado power, but she goes off to La La Land, and Neuter grabs the vial that was en route to Doug. Doug does not get to drink a vial that we see.
True.
And
I was wrong.
Neuter, that's kind of the, we were expecting kind of like a fight, but what we get is a beatdown.
Yeah, which was great.
Neuter makes a rush for the rest of the vials up on the platform where Skidmark is, and most of the other merchants are kind of also rushing towards the action at this point, and Taylor judges this is her best chance to go after Bryce. So Lisa sends Minor and Brooks with her. We see Neuter take down Squealer, but then Skidmark kind of deflect Neuter and brush him off the platform using his power. Suddenly, Labyrinth's effect on the mall starts to really kick into high gear. There's torchlight starting to flow into the space, and the walls start to bulge out into these large stone statues of nude humanoid figures. And then, erupting out of the ground, come 12-foot tall walls that create a literal labyrinth that Taylor finds herself stuck in with Minor and Brooks. Taylor sees Faultline, Gregor the Snail, and a woman that Taylor realizes is not Spitfire, but we learn and can kind of surmise later is Shamrock, a new member of Faultline's crew. Also descend after Neuter. Spitfire's nowhere to be seen in the chapter. Taylor thinks she's probably babysitting Labyrinth while Labyrinth is doing her thing. These three immediately get into a fight with Trainwreck, who seems to be the most effective cape fighting Faultline's crew.
Ironic.
We see a lot of Shamrock's power. It's awesome. She's basically constantly having bad things almost happen to her and getting away unscathed, which we can talk about more later. There's a little bit of hot potato, or I guess it's hot potato where you want the potato, with the vials, where, Labyrinth tries to get it boosted onto a pillar and Skidmark sends the vials clattering away. We kind of lose track of the vials throughout the chapter, though the assumption is, based on how Faultline's crew was dominating, that they're going to get all of the vials by the end of this. We don't see any vials get consumed. Skidder is incredibly focused on finding Bryce. She thinks to herself about how surprising the intensity of that emotion is, but just she needs to succeed at this mission. And the fastest way there is to get Minor to boost her over the wall. So up she goes over the wall, up Brooks goes over the wall, and she reveals to Minor, okay, well, I am Skidder, I control bugs, and you can follow these arrows that I draw on the wall with my bugs. And she uses the few bugs that she has to kind of map out the maze, keep track of important players, and lead Minor through the labyrinth so that he can meet up with her and Brooks again. Taylor then sees a more open circular chamber in the labyrinth where Trainwreck and Shamrock are fighting. Faultline suddenly appears, jumping through a wall, and basically hamstrings Trainwreck's mech suit, cutting off his legs at the knees and ankles so that he kind of tumbles down, and Shamrock and Faultline get away. Taylor then approaches Trainwreck and is like, hey, are you still working for Coil or not? And he says, I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, okay, well, if you are still working for him, you mind destroying that wall? And he says, you're fucking nuts. And then gets back to his feet, destroying the wall so she can go through. Yeah. The reason she wanted to go through the wall is because her bugs have been IDing downed bodies that match Bryce's general size. She's lucky enough to find Bryce, but he was injured by Scrub. He's missing a large part of his hand, but he got lucky. His girlfriend has been mostly obliterated. The girl's mother also killed. And Thomas, the other merchant that we have identified, who was the one responsible for really injuring Sierra's friend, looks very badly injured, on the verge of bleeding to death, but is crawling away from the scene. Brooks steps in to give first aid to Bryce, who has managed to staunch the bleeding on his hand, but is about to pass out. And Taylor takes a moment to look at this merchant crawling away and decides to own the fact that she does not want to and will not give him help in this moment. Brooks stabilizes Bryce. Taylor and Brooks and Minor take Bryce with them, start going back over the walls. As Taylor's going over the wall, she sees, Gregor is also here. Gregor is fighting Mush. Gregor is unaffected by Labyrinth's power, which is very cool, so he can just walk through all of the walls and stuff. Scrub is fighting on the side of the merchants, but is not much of a match for Shamrock. By the time Taylor gets Bryce over the wall, she can tell that the fight is basically over. Faultline's crew having completely decimated the merchants. Skidmark's the last one standing, and his power doesn't really get that effective unless he can apply it over and over to a particular area. So he's got no moves left. Taylor thinks kind of about how his whole little burgeoning empire has now blown up in his face. And Skidmark decides to stick it to Faultline's crew by using his power to blow the vials out into the arena and blow the case open, spilling canisters and a bunch of papers everywhere. And Lisa and Taylor seize on this opportunity for Taylor's bugs to intercept a handful of papers and kind of paper airplane / bug navigate them down to their group as they look for a way out. Lisa finds an exit. She sees that the very far corner of the mall appears to be unaffected by Labyrinth's power, which means if they duck into the storefront there, they can probably get out through the back. Lisa's hypothesis is correct. And in the parking lot of the mall, they stop to catch their breath and look at the papers that they have received. The papers are a contract and instructions to go along with the delivery of these vials, paid for by one person to be given to 5 specific other people. Only the people who are assigned the vials should take them. If you don't follow our instructions, the people who provided the vials will be taking lethal countermeasures. And there's some more information that we can kind of get into that Lisa and Taylor are talking about as they're starting to ask some questions about okay, what's this organization Cauldron? When they say subjects and deviations, what do they mean? And then Neuter stops by. He says, Cauldron calls us subjects, the PRT calls us Case 53s, regular people call us monsters. And it sounds like they've gotten a lot of information from Shamrock. The Case 53s are guinea pigs used to develop these superpowers in a can. Most of the test subjects don't survive. Some of those who do are brainwashed, so they can be enforcers for the contracts. Shamrock was an enforcer who didn't get brainwashed and managed to escape. And Gregor, Neuter, presumably the others, the ones who survive but are not useful, have their memories wiped and are released as part of something called the Nemesis program, which they don't really have more information about. So Neuter's like, who even are you? And why did you take these papers? And Skidder decides to reveal herself to him as well, not minding that she's doing so in front of Charlotte, who she thinks has already figured this out. And Neuter's not exactly happy to see her, still kind of confused about what they were doing here. Skitter's like, look, we just were curious about the papers. We were here to rescue this kid. You can have the papers now. Like, no hard feelings. Like, we're not here to make trouble. Neuter's like, fine. But then Lisa steps in and is like, but hey, I'm a fountain of knowledge. I think we should work together. And Neuter's like, but Faultline hates you. And Lisa's like, I know, but she also knows that I can help her. So Lisa gives Neuter her number. And then Neuter leaves. Finally, Taylor turns to Charlotte, who doesn't look like she is happy to be here, but also looks too scared to try and leave. And Taylor thinks, all right, well, we got through that, succeeded, but now I gotta deal with my people, and I'm not good at that. So we leave her thinking about, what am I gonna do about Charlotte, Bryce, and Sierra?
Yeah.
And that's
I loved the thing where Charlotte looked scared. You know, she shrank back as if I could hurt her by looking at her, which was dumb. It was fairly obvious to anyone who considered my power that I didn't need to look at people to hurt them.
It is... This is like one of the best inside-outside moments of all time.
Yes.
Right? It calls back to her being like, oh, you know, anyone who was thinking about how I pulled off that trick by the trucks where I seemed to turn into a swarm of bugs and move, they'd figure out that I was just sitting in the truck until the swarm descended. It's like,
no, they would not figure that out.
I don't have to look at you to hurt you. Why should you cringe away when I look at you? Maybe
You're
it's
a
because...
terrifying bug lady.
Yeah. And Charlotte is now officially the person who knows Skitter/Taylor.
Right, she actually knows about both identities. Like, there are other people who've seen Taylor's face, but they don't know her in her real life.
Right. She understands both of them. And this is the reaction she is having. It is very exciting.
Yeah. It's kind of going to be a problem, like Taylor says, you know. She's not very good at dealing with civilians, and what's she going to do about this?
Yeah. But it's, you know, it's funny, this chapter... 3 times she, like, reveals herself. Or she reveals herself to 3 separate people. She reveals herself to Minor, she reveals herself to Neuter, and to Charlotte.
Yeah.
And she does note it to herself every time, but she doesn't seem that bothered to be like, yep, it's me. I'm Skitter.
I mean, what civilian identity does she have right now? She doesn't go to school. She doesn't even live in her dad's house. Like, I don't think she would want her dad finding out.
Yeah.
But, like, I imagine the pressure of it feels somewhat less when she's not really trying to act as a civilian in any way.
That's interesting. Right, because the civilian identity is sort of an escape hatch, but Taylor's not looking for that right now.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, so what she's thinking about is... her mission, eventually saving Dinah, right? So it would be really interesting to think, like, if she slowed down enough to think, it's like, okay, well, you know, let's say I save Dinah and topple Coil, and, like, now I'm ready to go back to, you know, doing whatever.
College.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That is she going to be thinking, like, oh, God, what do I do about Charlotte? What do I do about Minor?
Is Charlotte going to out me? Yeah. Well, I mean, Minor's already part of Coil's crew. Like, you know, he's kind of in the know.
Yeah, but right. So obviously, I think that's a really interesting question. To what extent is Taylor truly indifferent to the fall of her civilian identity? Or is she more just not
preoccupied,
thinking about it because she's preoccupied?
And she doesn't have, like, a ton of choice. Like, Charlotte found out through no deliberate action of Taylor's.
Yeah.
And Minor, like, seems like he pretty much already knew.
Yeah,
he did not seem surprised.
He was not surprised. Right.
Yeah. Neuter, I mean, Charlotte already knew she was there, but, like, Neuter, I guess, she just trusts? Well, or maybe she thought that was the best way to de-escalate the situation.
I loved that moment, too, where she's, like, reveals herself, and she has such flair. She's holding out the paper, and then bugs crawl on it. Or Neuter's holding the paper, and then bugs crawl on it, or something like that. And he's like, Skitter, so what are you doing here? And Taylor's thinking, like, he didn't seem that happy to see me, even though I saved his life and I gave him a bag full of money. It's so funny. It was like, she's like kind of low-key resentful that they're not friends.
Yeah, she wants to be friends with him. He seems cool. I want them to be friends.
She's so conflating, like, it's almost like, well, yeah, I joined the Undersiders because, and now we're friends and villains. And, like,
all other villains can be friends with me too.
You know, like, it's a very human response. Like, of course you want people to like you, especially hotties like neuter.
Also, there's not really bad blood between the Undersiders and Faultline's crew, so there's no real reason to think he's...
Just between Lisa and Faultline specifically.
Yes, that is true, but that's more personal, I think.
Yeah.
It's not like the groups are opposed to each other.
Yeah, but it's also like, I also feel like she's taking it too personally.
Yeah.
Like, because...
She's like, he should know from the way I conducted myself at that other mission that I am trustworthy.
Right. I think Neuter is having a normal response of being like, who are these mercenaries that are stealing secrets?
They're supervillains.
The girls are in charge. Wait, this is Skitter, but she's not in her costume, and the other Undersiders aren't here. Like I've been out of town for a few weeks, right?
What has happened?
So his priority is like, okay, you're Skitter. I still have questions.
Yeah. Right, but she kind of wants him to be like, oh, Skitter, hi!
Right. And it's also possible, like, not to say that she didn't come off as a creepy bug girl the last time, right? He could be sort of like, ugh, right? He could be having that reaction, but I don't
think he would be having that reaction. He's a creepy nude guy. Like,
yeah, but he's like, I don't know.
He might be having the reaction of like, oh, Skitter, she carved Loon's eyes out while I was unconscious.
Right.
I mean, which she did.
Right, yeah.
But it's that thing again where Taylor feels like when she has good intentions, other people should be able to read that earnestness and like know that she means it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, she likes Neuter, she likes Faultline's crew, therefore they should like her, they should see that.
And it's the same thing with Charlotte, right? Charlotte's cringing away, and Taylor thinks like, oh, well, she must be assessing that I could hurt her by looking at her. But it's like, no, like, Skitter probably just looks, or Taylor probably just looks super intense and scary. You know,
well, also, Charlotte doesn't know anything about her, really. I don't know how scary she looks out of costume. Like, she just did a little thing with bugs, but, like, I don't know. She probably doesn't look very different than Charlotte's been seeing her all evening. But, like, Charlotte's just realizing, like, oh, not only is she a cape, she's a supervillain who I've heard of.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't know what Taylor is capable of. She doesn't know Taylor's intentions.
But like,
she's in the hands of supervillains. She's screwed.
Yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is the social thing that Taylor is missing is that making eye contact with somebody in this position of power over you is intimidating, and like Charlotte is probably shying away from that. She's not thinking about...
She's not thinking Skitter's about to attack me.
Right.
Yeah, but she is scared of her. With good reason. She just doesn't know anything.
Yeah. And the beat where Taylor assesses, oh yeah, Charlotte looks like she doesn't want to be here, but she's also not going to leave. Like, she's too scared to leave. And, you know, I could go reassure her, oh wait, what is on these papers? And then...
There's a lot going on, okay?
I know. I really feel for Charlotte.
Oh yeah, Charlotte's having a tough night. I guess she's not one of the 1 in 5 people who can have a trigger event, because she hasn't yet.
Yeah, well, we don't know how it works. Were there only, were there a limited number of slots at this moment in space-time, per your speculation?
It's possible.
Last chapter? We don't know.
Who knows? So let's talk about the powers in a can.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of good fodder for your theories.
Yeah, so Cauldron is the name of the organization, it sounds like. And we heard that there was some sort of Omega type symbol, which is what a cauldron looks like. So that checks out.
Very interesting observation.
And we even have Neuter saying the Case 53s, which is what the PRT calls them, are the subjects for Cauldron. And that he was one, that Gregor was one, Shamrock was one, and they're being used as these test subjects for these proprietary power formulas.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense. They would want test subjects.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of scruples, so they're going to use people. They're going to erase their memories. And it is funny that they just erase their memories and turn them out into society rather than killing them.
Right.
Because they're sort of a liability. They would make it easier to trace Cauldron as an organization, just their existence. So I assume they have some intention. And this was the Nemesis program is what they called that.
Yeah.
So I assume that there is some benefit to them, or they have some goal in releasing the Case 53s, the subjects, into society. Because otherwise they just wouldn't do it. These are people who, most of their test subjects died. They would just kill the other ones if they didn't have some reason for doing this.
Right. So any thoughts on that?
Nemesis is an interesting name. It suggests that maybe they're hoping that these people will turn out to be villains mostly, which I don't know that they do. Of the ones we've met, everyone except Weld, I think, is a villain, but we haven't met that many of them.
Yeah.
But maybe it's this idea of, like, furthering the cops and robbers game.
Yeah, it's like a whole different level. I think you theorized before a lot about nefarious heroes and this idea of... And there's nothing really to say that they're hero-affiliated at all.
Oh, no. Yeah.
From what we've seen. But this idea
Seems
that
like probably
some
no.
organization is creating capes and then the byproducts of this are other capes. And that does seem to be setting up to factions, perhaps, as you're speculating.
Yeah, but I'm not sure why they would be invested in the cops and robbers thing. That I don't feel like creating more villains creates more demand for their products. I wouldn't think.
Right, yeah.
So I don't know, that's pretty confusing to me.
And the Nemesis program was like part of the contract. It was like part of the offering to this client.
How did that work?
I don't think we got a lot of details, but it seemed like that was part of the legalese.
Oh, 7 figures base price, more for this Nemesis program, still more for some powers. Do they release people who will specifically be the nemesis of the capes they're creating? How would they arrange that?
And what would the benefit be?
You get someone to fight and you get to feel like you're in a cops and robbers scenario. That doesn't really ring true to me.
Yeah, interesting.
Maybe there's demand for your services to defeat these villains once you're a like shiny cape. But I don't know that they're in the business of making heroes specifically, so...
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, this is definitely where Coil got his powers. Talked about the really expensive price, so 7 figures base price, which, I mean, honestly seems low. And also this idea that he owes services to Cauldron using his powers.
Right.
Which for Coil in particular would be terrifying. I was thinking about this the other day before reading this chapter, just because, like, clearly he does owe the use of his powers. That's what the debt would be. And it's like a week's worth or something. Imagine being Coil and having to live in a single timeline for a week.
Right.
Like, you would... like, I don't know, go catatonic. Like, he would lock himself up. He would be paralyzed by
paranoia.
Fear. Yeah, it would be terrible for him. So I can see why that's haunting him. But yeah, so it seems like if some powers are extra, that maybe these are formulas for specific powers.
Interesting.
Potentially. That doesn't really work with my theory of, like, it thins the veil so you can, like, get motes of cosmic energy from this other species. Because that wouldn't necessarily give you a specific power, I wouldn't think. So they must have figured out how to recreate that effect.
Yeah.
Just through chemistry? I don't know. That's still really opaque to me. But it is fascinating that it's, like, specific people are in this contract as, like, the people who are receiving these powers. No one else is allowed to receive them. Are they, like, keyed to those people somehow?
Yeah. Well, there is this really interesting tidbit. The client who's paying, but not...
This cannot be stressed enough.
Right, but not taking any of the powers. There's, like, really, really saying, you might want to take a sip, don't. Right?
Yeah,
you might want to take someone else's vial, don't.
Yeah.
And but it does seem like specific vials are going to specific people.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that could be because they were tailor-made, but it could also be...
It seems like those people have had psychological testing done. One of them was borderline, may lead to a deviation scenario.
Right. So there are risks, right? Even with all of this stuff. It seems like Cauldron takes this all pretty seriously, and the science is by no means perfect, right?
Yes. What are these deviations, and have we seen any?
I don't know.
We know the Endbringers were never human.
Yeah. I am reminded if... Skidmark read through all of this. He did say last chapter, no, you don't want to share.
That's right. So he would have read these papers.
Could be that maybe we can take some of those warnings a little more seriously.
Uh-huh.
But you were saying deviations could be Endbringers? But
they're not, theory. Because the Endbringers were never human. Never human.
Right.
Or at least Leviathan was never human. And so I'm trying to think of who else we could have seen who could be a deviation. Maybe it's just... you know, Neuter, Gregor the Snail, like their physical, you know, the fact that they are always different, that they don't have like a passable non-cape civilian body to switch back to. Maybe that makes them deviations?
Right. And it didn't come back in this chapter, but one of the mysteries from the Gregor interlude was like, why have the monstrousness of the Case 53s been going down over time?
They've been getting better at their formulas.
Right, and so this kind of explains that, and also matches up what you were saying. Like, so deviations haven't been eliminated, but there's still a possibility.
Okay, but how is Shamrock a deviation? Or, sorry, no. Actually, Lisa says, these subjects are apparently something different from deviations. And then Neuter says, Cauldron calls us subjects. And then regular people call us monsters. But Neuter is not saying that he himself is a deviation.
That's a good point. So you're right.
So,
that it could be something on the scale from neuter to, something worse.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what we've seen that would qualify as a deviation.
Know.
Actually, I guess Shamrock doesn't have to have had something go wrong with her. She was probably kept and intended to be used as one of these like enforcers because her power worked out fine and she didn't turn out quote unquote monstrous.
Right.
And with Neuter and Gregor, they're like, oh, these people look weird, kick them out.
I was wondering how much of it is that optic side of it, right? Shamrock can pass, so she gets to be an enforcer. Or is it just that Shamrock's power kicks ass in a way that, like, Neuter and Gregor...
Neuter's power really kicks ass. Are you kidding?
I mean, I guess, but, like, Shamrock is just untouchable.
Well, yes, Shamrock's power is very good, but, like, Neuter and Gregor are incredibly effective in combat.
It probably is more about the optics.
It's more like, how are you going to have, like, you don't want these, like, weird-looking people working for you and maybe getting traced back to you,
But Shamrock, I guess, managed to get out without being brainwashed, so that's cool.
There was probably some, like, flaw in the system and she got lucky.
Oh my god. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. I love that. It is so annoying that Faultline's crew has so much more information since the last time we were in all of their heads. And we get a little bit of exposition here, and maybe the promise of future collaboration.
I think we are. I don't think that's going to be a thread that doesn't get pulled on.
I just want Shamrock's whole escape from Cauldron story.
Yes.
Like, I really want that.
And I want their, like, meeting with her and her deciding to join up with them and give up her lucrative gambling life. Maybe she wanted friends.
Yeah.
Like Taylor. Like Taylor did, not friends like Taylor. I really do think Faultline is not stupid, as Lisa says. She's going to reach out, especially if all Lisa wants is information about this. Like, Lisa's not asking a price. Other than that, they can collaborate and both end up a lot better off. And I don't think she feels threatened by Lisa having this information. Like, why would she?
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, it's sort of play for common rationality.
Yeah.
And it is nice in the sense of, like, this isn't really Taylor getting an ally, and it's not really related to something Taylor cares about.
Yeah.
But it is nice to have lines of communication. Yeah, the networking is nice to see for our Undersiders. I keep wanting to say this is an Undersiders mission, but it's not. It's a Taylor and Lisa mission.
It's true, but...
They're obviously Undersiders affiliated still, but
right, and Taylor is there as part of taking territory, which is like a thing all the Undersiders are doing, even if she's sort of doing it on her own. Yeah.
The only other note I had about all this stuff is just the emphasis that Cauldron operates under threat of, or with threat of lethal force, and not just any kind of legal force. Because of course, it's like what they're doing.
Not under the law.
Yeah, exactly.
What they're doing is incredibly illegal.
Exactly.
So they have this like small army of capes who are incredibly loyal because they've been brainwashed. They also seem to have the ability to erase memories.
Right.
Just a separate, I was going to say power, but like not that kind of power.
Right.
Separate capability.
Well, but it could be a capability or a cape ability.
I don't think they would rely on a single cape doing this unless it was like their founder or something.
That's true. Mrs. Cauldron.
Please, Mrs. Cauldron was my mother. Call me Call.
I did really like the sort of narrative turn in that we're setting up, even at the beginning of this chapter, it's like, it's gonna be a chaotic melee. Like we even got the sort of battle royale scene among the merchants. And then in this chapter, it's like, oh yeah, in a real fight, the merchants are nothing. They suck, right? This is just Faultline and her crew dunking over and over and over on the merchants. And what the stakes end up being about are Taylor's very personal mission with Bryce.
Yeah.
But then the information and the contest over information, right?
Yeah.
It's not a scene of like a bunch of people get powers all at once and it's so crazy. It's like Faultline's crew is like, no. I'm going to get that vial and that vial and that vial.
Yeah.
And then the final tense showdown at the end is over paperwork.
Yes.
And, and Taylor is dealing with the information about her identity as Skitter, which she keeps being willing to trade to get other things that she wants.
Yeah.
It's just really fun to undermine it's kind of what...
Right, we're coming back to knowledge being power. Lisa had pretty much no effectiveness in the Battle Royale, but at this point, her domain has taken precedence again.
Exactly.
I do think, in fairness to the merchants, Faultline's crew really came in with a good plan and were very effective. Like, we saw the Undersiders do the same thing to the Protectorate. So it's not necessarily saying that the merchants are useless, but it really wasn't a fair fight at all. Like, the merchants were just so pitiful.
Yeah.
And Taylor has this whole thing, like, Skidmark kind of got where he is now through, like, luck and good timing and not really through ability. So his thing is kind of crashing down around his ears here.
Yeah. The optics are bad. I mean... And we see, like, the unpowered merchants, they're a complete non-factor. They get immediately neutered. Sorry to use that word, neuter. But get immediately neutered by the maze, right? Walls go up and suddenly there is no mob, right? It's just a bunch of people in little corridors. And then some of them do manage to get out and run away. But contrast Bakuda. Nobody's afraid of Skidmark, like, coming after them and being like, how dare you run away and leave me?
No, that's true.
Right?
That's true. I mean, he doesn't care about his individual... quote-unquote gang members. Like, he cares about the powered ones. Yeah. He puts down the other ones and just says, you guys all kill each other and we'll see who emerges victorious.
Yeah.
He's dealing with inhuman currency, like, that he treats very cheaply.
Yeah.
So I don't know that he cares that all of these people ran away, got knocked out of the fight, because he just doesn't care about them at all.
Yeah. I do wonder about the optics thing, because Taylor is thinking, right, like, how can he stand in front of his followers in the future and demand their respect?
I was wondering about that.
Well, that was what Taylor was fearing in the second chapter in this interlude, right? When she's like, I gotta bet $1 million and win, right? And she pulls it off. But to me, this is just Taylor projecting. She's seeing like, oh, Skidmark is being humiliated in front of his people. This is what I'm afraid of.
Oh,
right?
That's such a good point. Yeah. Because I don't know that Skidmark really has that relationship with his people. Like, it is possible that this event, if word gets out, will result in like people not wanting to come to merchant parties or whatever. But it's not like Skidmark has this like tight crew or like organized even group of people where like them relying on him. Like, he's just sort of creating a mood.
Yeah.
And like inviting people to partake in the mood. And that mood is very chaotic.
Yeah.
And so this is another piece of the chaos. And it will lower him in people's estimation. It might, some people will be like, oh, Skidmark,
did anyone esteem him to begin with?
No, that's a great point. It reminds me of how certain politicians, will just come out with lie after lie. It's the kind of thing that would destroy a different type of politician who was running on being trustworthy, actually appealing to like...
Yeah.
But if you're the kind of person who's just like a big blustery asshole and that's your brand, this kind of thing might not really hurt you that much. You can just go bluster and be an asshole again, and some people will probably be willing to listen to you.
Well, I was going to ask you, based on Taylor's assessment here, do you think we're done with the merchants? Like, do you kind of think that this was the merchants' arc and this is the peak of their narrative relevance? Or do you think that we might see more from them or in a different form? Like...
That's a good question. I am kind of hoping it's the downfall of the merchants, or like the merchants maybe dwindle from this point. That's kind of wishful thinking, because like they're kind of an annoying element.
Well, say more. So like,
well, it'd be great to move past they're so unpleasant. I don't want them to gain power. Like, this thing that they're doing where they're like trying to get people to have trigger events and then folding them into their like gang is really like potentially very dangerous if it has like momentum behind it, and if it like increases, like they could really gain more and more power. This feels like a really big knock to their momentum. Like they were going to create 5 new capes, and then they didn't. There was that one guy who had a trigger event. Who knows if he even wants to hang out with the merchants.
Yeah. We did see Taylor assesses his behavior as being merchant aligned, like that he's trying to fight off Faultline's crew.
Well, yeah, of course. But like in the moment when someone comes at you, you're gonna fight.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he's a merchant long term, but yeah.
Who knows? Maybe he is. Maybe he's not. But they were going to create these 5 new merchants, and they didn't get to. And it did feel like one small group of competent capes attacking them, and everything folded. I mean, and Faultline's crew is very effective.
We didn't talk about this last time, but like Scrub's trigger event killed so many people.
Yeah.
And like the merchants can't all have that much of a death wish. Like these people do suck, but I got to assume that what happened in the last chapter is like the worst thing that has happened at a merchant event in terms of like self casualties for the merchant. You know, like maybe not, but like I kind of feel like when Whirlwind Girl got her powers, it probably didn't kill like dozens of people immediately, right? Like I feel like this had to be uniquely bad from both the optics and the like, oh, how many merchants did you just kill with your party?
Yeah, I mean, just the disaster that was this merchant party in general might deter people from going to future ones. Like I don't think that no people would go, but maybe it'll become less of a big thing. Yeah. I don't know.
And it is a pretty like loosely affiliated group. So like,
definitely.
We don't know enough about the merchants on deck, if you will.
Right. Presumably not everyone who feels merchant aligned was at this particular party tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
Though, if the merchants had a bunch of new capes, Whirlwind Girl got taken out immediately. None of the other new ones helped at all.
That's true. Well, there was someone who was fighting Faultline, but we didn't really know what their power was.
Right.
Yeah. It didn't seem like a very effective group.
Right. Just an excuse for Faultline's crew to be aura farming. I gotta say, I have completely fallen in love with Shamrock in this chapter.
Yes, she's so cool.
All she does is stunt over and over and over again. She comes in, they're like, rappelling down in, and then Trainwreck, like, tries to destroy the piece of stone that they're sliding down on, and then she just, like, balances on it as she gracefully lands.
Yes.
There's the bit where, like, she just walks towards Scrub, and he's, like, concentrating on her to, like, completely obliterate her, and his power misses. And then misses. And then misses. And then misses. And then she just grabs Scrub and throws him down. Trainwreck throws a wall at her in Faultline, and she just slightly sidesteps it, so the wall just, like, zips by her side. I could go on. She's so cool.
She's delightful. I was reading this chapter in front of Ted.
No, the best one is when she shoots Trainwreck and he is shielding himself and the bullet ricochets.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I was reading this chapter in front of you, as you know, and I had 2 moments of exclaiming. And the second one was like, oh, that's who that woman is. It was when she was walking up to Scrub and he keeps missing her. And then she throws him down and Taylor's like, it's the kind of fall that wouldn't necessarily take someone out, but she just walked away really confidently. And I was like, oh, it's that woman from the footage who they were going to find. Then it took me a while to remember her name.
It reminds me of when Shadowstalker was fighting, and because of her shadow state, she can do these cool flexes in the middle of battle where she, like, stands up and all the punches go through her, and then she, like, jumps on somebody and turns solid and knocks them down, right? It's like taking the sort of over-the-top choreography that you see in superhero movies and then grounding it in the actual powers. And this is like, her power is just that she's lucky, so she looks cool, right? Like,
she looks so cool.
I love it so much.
Faultline looked cool too, pulling off all sorts of stuff. My other gasp moment was when she sliced through Trainwreck's ankle, and I was like, she did it! She got through the Manton effect, and then it was like his mechanical leg, and I was like, oh.
But that was so cool, because Faultline, her power, Labyrinth's maze is no obstacle to her. Yeah. She's just like,
they're so compatible as teammates.
Yeah, breaking through. And then the fact that she can hamstring a mech because she's Faultline is again so cool. And then later she like is getting attacked by somebody, just like drops into the floor, and then creates like
handholds.
A custom climbing wall to get around the other side of the platform, sneaks up on a merchant who was looking into the hole she fell into, and then takes them out.
Now, is she a striker? Does she have to touch something to split it?
I think so.
I was going to say, like, she'd be really powerful against Dragon.
I want to say if it is not a striker ability, then I feel like it has to start from her body. But I don't know.
Speaking of people with cool abilities, Labyrinth. So her ability seems to be constructing enormous temples. Like, on the one hand, like, creating the literal labyrinth made a lot of sense. And, like, the pillars, like, all the stuff she did to help her team get around. But, like, there was no real reason for, like, the giant statues. Yeah. Is that just the aesthetic of her power, or was she doing it to be intimidating?
Well, I was going to ask you about that, so I'm really glad you picked up on it, right? Taylor thinks about it like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. Labyrinth could have just, like, set the floor on fire if she wanted to, right? Taylor saying, like, it's so powerful, she can do anything. But then, like you're saying, not all of her changes are purely functional.
Right.
So, like, what is actually going on? It's very weird.
Is she someone who just, like, tries to recreate, like, the labyrinth of, like, Theseus, like, everywhere she goes? Is that, like...
Yeah, well, right. And this felt a lot more like a specific place than the Arc 5 scene we got with her. And that could just be she went farther. Doing her... Yeah, she went further. We know that she has more and less powerful days, so it could be that she's much more Labyrinth than Elle today, and so that's why we're getting a closer look at it. And
it was funny, like, Spitfire didn't show up, and Taylor thought maybe she was with Labyrinth, and was like, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
The other thought Taylor had, it was a cathedral dedicated to a goddess that was very real and having a very active hand in current affairs. Labyrinth. And I think this is just Taylor, like, describing how it makes her feel. But,
but that was cool.
Right, but, like, do you think if it is a temple, it is a temple to Labyrinth?
No.
No.
I don't think she's making a temple to herself, except insofar as anyone's creations are a temple to themselves, I suppose.
Yeah.
It does sort of make me think, like, I feel like this is a trope in just general media that the Greek and Roman gods, the Greco-Roman pantheon, is sometimes like, oh yeah, those were like real superheroes. Those were real, whatever, magical beings. Like, were they capes? Was there just like another brief burst of capes back in, prehistoric, not prehistoric, but, ancient Greece? And then there weren't any other capes until that, maybe other pantheons were also that, who knows?
Yeah, so keep an eye on historical references.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, thus far we haven't seen, I think, divergences from our timeline before Scion showed up, but who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
There's also, I mean, if Taylor had Labyrinth's power, she would be doing all sorts of weird architecture stuff to make people feel uncomfortable, right? So, like...
yeah, it might just have been intimidation. Yeah.
You mentioned our boy, Trainwreck.
Oh, Trainwreck.
We talked a little bit about Faultline taking him out, but did you have any other thoughts?
Taylor is so bold with him.
Yeah.
Like, he could definitely not be working with Coil, in which case he's going to be super suspicious of this girl whose face he has now seen. I mean, he doesn't really know who she is. I mean, I think he is working with Coil, but, like, what a risk to take.
Right. You're fucking nuts that he says, to me, that leaves open the possibility that he has figured out that she's somebody.
Well,
like a case that works for Coil.
He probably, I guess he might not know who Coil's staff is, because, like, Taylor doesn't know all of Coil's staff, but, like, she's a child, so she's probably not on his payroll. And I guess he doesn't know all of Coil's secrets, but it's not that big a leap to be like, wow, this must be one of his capes. Like,
yeah,
what else would he have this 15-year-old girl?
Body type, hair, right? He's met Skitter, right?
And that is true. That's true. He might know it's actually Skitter, but People don't seem to be super good at guessing that.
And it fits the trajectory in this chapter of Taylor just like caring less and less about mixing her identities together.
Yeah, coming out to people who have less and less idea who she is.
Yeah.
Like, she tells Minor, and Minor's like, obviously had kind of already guessed, because, like, it's not a leap. And then Trainwreck maybe puts it together, and Neuter has to, like, really be shown her power.
Yeah, yeah. Everything about this interaction is so funny to me. Just... she gets results, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
This is absolutely the right play in the sense that she gets everything that she wants and there are no downsides. But it's hugely risky. What she's saying
is like, hang on. Are you someone I can use? Can I use you? Well, if I can, you should do this thing.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to admit I can use you as long as you do what I say.
But like that, her battlefield MO of just like, who can I use? Well, who's a tool who I can just put into action here?
Exactly. It's brilliant. To me, the thing was like, how sure is she that one of the merchants doesn't have super hearing, right? She's been tripped up by super senses multiple times. So, like, the fact that she's like, nobody's in earshot. To me, that's where I was like, Taylor, you're rolling the dice here.
I do bet it's pretty loud and chaotic in there right now.
Yeah.
So even if someone has super hearing, they aren't necessarily going to pick up on a single conversation that. Yeah.
We've come a long way. I guess connecting it back to how Taylor has changed. We've come a long way from default passive do-nothing Taylor, right?
Yeah.
She is much more comfortable making big, bold plays. Like,
that's a good point. She was she wasn't very cautious with Lung, but like she was sort of constantly like calculating risks and all of that stuff. And with this, like, she just does it. Yeah.
And it makes sense. Like, she made that $1 million bet at the beginning of this arc, and it paid off. Part of that. So what she is learning is that she's good at this, and it seems true so far.
And she thinks if she loses Bryce, she's lost that $1 million bet. She has this whole vision that she spins out for herself of like, if I don't get Sierra's brother back, if I have to go back and tell her I failed, she's going to be talking to other people in my territory about how I failed. Yeah. And there will be all these like rumors going around about how like Skitter can't actually help her people. Skitter can't keep her promises. She's like a failure.
Can I read that?
Yeah.
I couldn't be leader of a territory and know that someone out there was maybe telling others I hadn't followed through. Fighting that constant nagging doubt in the back of my mind that wondered if my people were whispering or laughing at me behind my back.
This is a bullying fear.
Yes.
This is her school fears coming back to haunt her. And it's a little bit debilitating because if she's trying to rule this territory, like, she's not going to be able to make everyone happy all the time. It's definitely a good strategy to try to keep her promises, but like the idea that like I couldn't rule a territory if there was one person saying bad things about me. Right. It's like, that's going to be a tough standard to maintain, and it's going to make you beholden to a lot of people that you might not want to be beholden to.
Right. And it's
I guess she can just not make the promises in the first place. But.
It's also, just because someone is saying bad things about you doesn't mean it's right. You can't just assume that, one thing that you learn, this is my understanding about people who go viral online, right? Is that like people can not like you. Yeah. And that is okay. Right? And so
to come to
Taylor here is becoming a public figure. Yeah. And she has to learn at some point that not everyone's going to like Skitter.
Why does anyone become public figures? Why does anyone publish books?
Why does anyone record podcasts? The other piece of this that jumped out to me is, right, so she has this bullying adjacent fear of people laughing behind her back, and like so validated for her by Charlotte being like, you're that locker girl.
Right, definitely.
But it's so funny the way that her psychology has changed so quickly by seeing herself in charge of this territory and these people, right? She has taken on this role, and it is deeply affecting how she thinks and feels, and is, I guess, in this scene, driving her to take riskier, bolder actions than she would if she just cared about herself and her team. We even see that coming up with the way, like, Lisa's talking about it. She's kind of like, I guess you have your reasons, but like, I think we should just get out of here. She's a lot more like, we were just here to get recon, and we did, and we can leave now. And Taylor's like, no, I have a mission. I have something to fight for.
Which probably is, it's probably really grounding for her. She has a territory. She has this purpose. And it's sort of in service to this larger thing where she wants to rescue Dinah, which is a terrible plan. But she does have just immediately in front of her these people who need her help and protection. And that must feel great. Like, what a concrete thing that she can do to help these people in this city that feels so hopeless in general right now.
And she even says in this paragraph she's surprised by how she's feeling about it, which I think is another interesting, like, she's aware of these emotions being sort of like outsized and strong, but like she didn't anticipate it. She's just having the emotions now. Right after this, though, I love how astute she is about her own mental state when thinking about Bryce. You know, I just saw my dad, now I'm remembering how important family is. Bryce was the errant youth, his sister the anxious family member. Were my emotions here tied to the parallel between them and my father and me? Right? So, like, what she is putting at stake here is, I need to rescue Bryce, and he needs to not suck. Because, again, like, the fantasy of Dinah going back to her normal life. Yeah. It's like, I need to prove that I am strong enough to bring Bryce back to Sierra, thus, you know, giving life to my fantasy that maybe I can go back to Danny one day. So credit to Taylor that she's noticing this about herself and not just leaving it for us to point out.
Yeah, but man, so Bryce's quote-unquote new family was hit very hard by Scrub.
Oh my god, this description of the remains.
The girlfriend was dead, her head and shoulders gone, muscle and fluids flowing out where the flesh had been annihilated. The girl's mother was a goner too. She lay on her back, her face missing. Had she been behind her daughter, holding her, hit by the same blast? Then we learn that Thomas is still alive. A slice had been taken out of his arm, shoulder, and a section of his back, as though a guillotine had grazed him from behind. I wasn't quite sure how he hadn't died yet, with the amount he was bleeding. And then Bryce,
Yeah, awful, awful imagery, but very effective.
Yeah. Bryce is missing a large portion of his right hand, and he tried to loop his belt around the injury to control the blood loss. So just his hand, you know, he probably will be able to survive that if he gets treatment.
Yeah. But like, doubling down about how horrifying Scrub's power is.
Scrub is scary.
And
turn him on the Endbringers.
In a way, like, this is, again, it's like more intimate might not be the right word, but like there's something about it that is so much more up close and personal than like the way Leviathan was killing capes, right? It really is.
You're not just getting the names over the headset or the armband. You're
awful
seeing
in a different
people
way.
With their heads and shoulders missing.
Yeah.
So then she has to deal with Thomas.
Yeah.
Or not deal with Thomas.
What did you make of this? This was an amazing little vignette.
She's watching him struggle towards the door, and she gets to this point where she's like, I feel like I need to justify why I'm not saving him. And I was like, why would you save him? Oh, I guess maybe it's... But it's funny because I just had the assumption, like, there are probably tons of people suffering and dying around. Why would you save this guy? One person who, like, well, he seems like he's going to die anyway. And also, you know of terrible things he's done. Is it just that you know of him, you know his name, and he's connected to this other person in front of you? Like... Maybe yes, or maybe he really is the only other injured person in the immediate vicinity, unclear. But Taylor, of course, does have a part of her that thinks she should save him because this is the hero part of her, who thinks, like, if you have noticed a person suffering in front of you, you can't turn away.
Right. Her principle of, I can't just stand by and do nothing, is immediately called into question here.
Yeah. And I feel like there are a few things. This is definitely an anti-hero moment for her, where she, not necessarily acting as an anti-hero, like, generally for in the book or anything, but, like, she is saying no to the hero part of her.
Yeah.
And I think there are probably a few things going into it. We talked last time about the innocence factor.
Exactly.
That she was able to think of Charlotte as innocent. She was able to think of Bryce as potentially innocent, you know, when she went in to rescue him originally. And she doesn't know of anything terrible he's done now, except be a jerk about chores.
Yeah.
But Thomas, she knows, like, brutally raped a man with an object. Like, she has reason to think that he is, quote unquote, a bad person. And I mean, she does not say that. I'm saying quote unquote, but I'm not quoting her. And I think that does affect her decision making. There are a couple other things, and it's unclear how much of a role they play. He would be difficult to rescue. I mean, he is probably going to die anyway and would really slow them down, especially having two people who need help.
Right. And the decision is Brooks notices her hesitation and says, like, I don't know, it's like, do you want me to help him? Like, I don't know if he says something like, I don't know if I have enough supplies, or like, I don't know.
Don't know how much I can do.
Don't know how much I can do. Right.
Yeah.
And then her decision is not leave him, don't help him. It's just focus on the boy, which is enough. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is very clear.
Oh, it's tragic, though, because Thomas hears Brooks saying that.
Yeah.
Thomas heard and stopped crawling, dropping onto his belly. He didn't look toward me, but I knew he was listening. Taylor says, it's fine, focus on the boy. Thomas didn't move, react, or say anything. He just, had his final hope die.
Yeah.
Now he's gonna die.
Yeah.
It's really horrific.
Yeah. And I do wonder, it's like, I don't know, are we sure he didn't just die? Like,
I mean, he might have just died at that
right?
moment. No, you're right.
Right, this is one of those things about Worm that I love. The way it's written is, that's such an evocative moment, and it's also one created by Taylor. Like, she is projecting that horror into the moment because that's how she's feeling about it. She's reading his body language.
She's like, oh yeah, he's definitely listening, not, oh, he just died.
Right. And given how horrifically injured he is, I wouldn't be surprised if he has no idea what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And she's, I could tell because he stopped crawling, he was listening,
That's such a good point.
But I didn't mean to undermine your point about how awful the moment is.
Yeah,
right?
it's awful to Taylor, even if that's not quite what's really happening.
She feels it as a moment of her passing judgment and him, receiving the judgment.
And she references Sierra's thing. Sierra had wanted Thomas and his followers to suffer, and I'd agreed to make that happen. She doesn't really follow up on that thought with, therefore I shouldn't save him. It's unclear what goes into her decision. Presumably that is part of it.
Yeah.
And this thing where she is making people suffer, I mean, through inaction, but still, that does feel like something that the villain that Sierra thinks she is would do.
And I don't even know that she did promise that to Sierra, because it was such an awkward moment where Taylor's like, I have that covered, or trust me when I say that I have that covered, right? It's kind of her awkward response. But in that moment, Taylor wasn't again thinking, I'm going to make them suffer.
Right. No, yeah.
Yeah, so I do read this moment as she does not want to help him, but she hasn't decided not to help him. And the way she thinks about it is she is resisting embracing her feeling, which is, I shouldn't help him. Right. And the origin of that resistance, I think it's the I can't just stand by thing. I think it's a little bit of a desire not to be seen as bad by her audience of Thomas and Brooks, right? Which is a very meager audience, but I do think that's kind of where it's coming from, right? I think she's much more comfortable making a ruthless, brutal decision in isolation and much less comfortable with having an audience.
Especially with her real face showing.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point.
She's not even in costume.
That's such a good point. But you're absolutely right that this should be hitting home for her, that her principle is, I save innocents, not I save, people who need help.
Yeah.
Right? And that, again, is a little piece of Sophia thought that she has embraced. Because when Flechette was like, no, we have to follow the rules, Sophia was like, I don't know, man. We're, judge, jury, and sometimes executioner. And what Taylor is acknowledging here is that she gets to decide.
Right. What a great point. And there's even a guillotine reference.
Oof. The last thing I want to say is it's fascinating that of all of the things that Taylor chooses to compartmentalize or not think about, this is one thing where she feels like she has to be honest with herself in a way that pushes her to be more heartless.
Yeah.
But I feel like with her desire to be a hero or to have friends or I feel like she has definitely had a lot of trouble with moments like this. So it's very striking that in this moment she is able to say, you know what, Taylor? So you got to stick to your guns. Don't rationalize this one away. Interesting to see where she takes this lesson in the future.
Right. Is doing this once going to make it a lot easier for her to do it again?
And I find this moment very interesting as an emotional and psychological beat for Taylor, I don't condemn her for it in any way. Kind of like what you were saying, right?
Yeah.
She's withholding aid to an evil dying man, right?
I mean, and also, I feel like the fact that there must be so many other dying people here is, it really gets at the, like, superhero mentality of, like, no, but I noticed this one.
Great point.
It's like, but there are probably tons, like, I mean, Lisa said at the beginning of this event, like, there are 100 people who need help, just like this girl.
Yeah.
And Taylor isn't even trying to find them. Like, I mean, I think it's reasonable that she's not, because that would be a really overwhelming task. But, like, it doesn't not count just because you didn't notice.
Yeah. And there is something, I feel like I've seen this tendency a couple of times in the reread. There is something very convenient for Taylor in that she doesn't have to choose to kill Bryce's girlfriend or the girlfriend's mother, both of whom would be in a more of a gray area than Thomas, the one who we know violently assaulted that person, right? Or, like, you know, assuming it's hearsay from Sierra, but, like, pretty reliable that he did. Right. So again, it's like, it's just a little quirk of fate, authorial fate, that this is like the most acceptable evil guy for her to walk away from. Right.
Yes.
So it really,
that's such a good point.
It really is well.
What a great first step on the slippery slope.
Exactly. It's just, it's really well set up so that you're like, well, yeah, I mean, Taylor, this is
my reaction was like, why are you even thinking about
exactly. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing that I wanted to mention was just Mush.
Oh, Mush.
Mush has the coolest power.
Is it?
I just want to read it. It's more good body horror stuff. His right arm had divided, stretched, forked out, and reconfigured until it looked like a mass of reaching veins and arteries. He plunged it into one of the trash cans that Labyrinth was absorbing into the floor, and when he withdrew it, the tendrils had formed the connective tissue for an oversized hand crafted out of garbage. And it goes on.
Yeah, he needs, like, some sort of particulate matter around to, like, form a huge body for himself out of.
Yeah, and it's...
What a power that would lead you to hang out in, like, really unpleasant places.
No, exactly. It's perfect. We don't really get to see him use it. The point is, like, Labyrinth is inadvertently or intentionally getting rid of all of the trash and stuff. So Mush is not able to be as effective as he would otherwise. But it's such a gross power, but it's really fun. I like it a lot.
Hang on. So we haven't talked that much about Labyrinth's power. We talked about the temple aspect. We know it's not just an illusion.
Right.
But does that mean that this is what Weymouth Mall is like now, except for people whose, like, head she touches to turn off the effect for them?
That is interesting.
I'd be kind of surprised if it were. That feels wrong. But...
I think, reading between the lines, right, Tattletale says we can get out through this corner because Labyrinth is all the way on the ceiling on the other corner of the mall. So I do believe the effect is centered on Labyrinth.
Yeah. So she is doing it. It's not a thing that has been done.
Yeah. So I think if she lived here now, then it would be the case. But I don't think she can shake an area and then leave it that way. I think that she is exerting influence while she is present.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know that we know that, but that makes sense to me in the context of what we've learned so far and in this chapter, so I feel like it's safe to say.
Wait, do we know how Taylor's power works? Like, if she gives a command to a bug, does it stop following it when it leaves her range of influence? Like, if she told a bunch of bugs to, like, go fly across the ocean, would they try to do that? Or would they stop trying to do that as soon as they reach, like, a few blocks away from her?
I assume it's the latter, but I don't know that it's actually come up. Yeah.
We do know she was able to, like, turn on the, like, reproductive instincts for the Black Widows, but that's, like, a little different than instructions, so... Right.
Yeah. And because it's not necessarily that they are even following instructions.
It's that her mind is, like, actively making them do things
right.
in each moment.
The way that I would think about it, when she's, like, organizing the sacks of money in Arc 5, that was when she was like, oh, they're just kind of doing what I say. To me, that's not she's giving a complicated instruction to a bug and the bug is able to follow it. It is that she is, like, abstracting from her power in a way where she can...
her power is, like, doing it in a part of her mind that she doesn't have to pay attention to.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like...
That makes sense.
Yeah. Like, more subconscious Taylor is a better analogy than...
as soon as the bugs reach the edge of her territory, they would just start doing whatever because they don't have a sense of the order.
Presumably.
Yeah,
but like you said, if you can turn things on and off, maybe you could create conditions where they would act in a certain way.
It would be more complicated. Yeah.
That's an interesting angle on it, though. Yeah, I might have said this earlier, but it was interesting to me how much Lisa defers to Taylor. It really is kind of following up on what you were saying a few chapters ago, that like Lisa's very happy to let Taylor like make calls and stuff.
Yeah, she wants
especially
Taylor
in the
to
heat
have
of the
vision.
moment, and she's more carrying it out.
Yes.
And then jumping in a little bit at the end when she's like, hey, take my number, give it to Faultline.
Lisa's a really great executive officer.
Yes. Yeah. Very good Lancer.
Yes. Ooh. She's the brains and the Lancer. Amazing.
What is going to happen next?
Oh, right. I guess there's still a little bit left in this arc.
Happy to tell you there is one chapter left in the arc.
All right. What's our unfinished business? Bryce needs medical care. Presumably, Coil's people will be able to get him that. Taylor's going to talk to Sierra, who is at her headquarters when she gets back. There's a part of me that thinks there should be some sort of drama happening in, like, her territory or at her headquarters, but, like, there's not really time to deal with that in one chapter. So maybe not. Lisa maybe can fill Taylor in on more stuff she's figured out about the Case 53 situation. Would love that.
Well, to follow up directly on the last line of the chapter, right? Taylor is dreading social interaction with her 3 civilians. So I want to know what is the
they have to deal with Charlotte.
Short and near-term resolution for Charlotte, Sierra,
Charlotte.
and Bryce.
Right, because we don't even know how Charlotte ended up here. Like, what is Charlotte's position in the city right now? Does she have family she's staying with? Did she get, like, kidnapped from them? Or has she been living on the streets alone and that's how she ended up, like, kind of taken by the merchants? Or did she try to join and ended up shoved into that role?
Yeah.
It didn't sound like she was pro-merchant, but Taylor's gonna have to get a promise from her not to tell anyone, which probably isn't gonna hold. But I think probably she's gonna just, like, scare her into it, because, like, Charlotte's already really scared of her.
Okay.
I don't think she'd be comfortable being like, I'm just gonna give you to Coil to deal with, because she wouldn't trust him not to make her disappear or something. Maybe, I mean, it would make sense for Charlotte to go stay at Lisa's shelter.
Okay.
And they could keep an eye on her.
Okay.
Yeah, better than putting her in with Sierra at Taylor's headquarters, where, like, Taylor's just accumulating civilians she doesn't know how to deal with.
So scared into silence, as she is at the end of this chapter, and
gonna stay at
away.
Lisa's shelter, which is not sent away, which is still under center observation.
So you mentioned Sierra. What happens with Sierra?
She's going to have to tell Sierra the truth, I think, about Bryce. And Sierra's going to be real bummed out. And Taylor's going to feel bad, even though she didn't do anything wrong.
But then what?
I don't know. I have no idea what she'll do with Sierra after that.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like there must be something because you're asking about it.
Oh, no.
I don't know. Maybe she is supposed to hire people. Maybe she does try to hire Sierra, and Sierra becomes, like, her right-hand woman in the territory. That would be fun.
That could be fun. What about Bryce? He gets medical care.
Yeah, you can't let him come live in your headquarters, Taylor. But she probably will anyway. It's a bad move. This kid is
You don't think she's just going to get a bunch of, like, lost boys?
This kid won't even do chores, Ted. He refuses to earn his keep. She can't, like, he's gonna sell her out to the first person who offers him a cushy living.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe she should just kill them all.
Maybe she should give them to Regent.
Wow.
No, I don't actually think that.
Wow.
I was just thinking about him, though, because I had hypothesized that, like, he would be the one to sell them out of the Undersiders because he didn't seem to be, like, too strongly attached to anything. I don't actually think that's something he would do. Like, I think he would need a really good reason. It seems like something that even if he doesn't have strong feelings about it, he would be like, no, that's not the way I'm supposed to be acting. And it's not like he'd have strong feelings pulling him in any other direction.
True.
So I don't think Regent would sell them out lightly. It would take a lot to push him there. But Bryce absolutely would, in a heartbeat.
Yeah. So it sounds like Sierra, Charlotte, easy to deal with.
I mean,
Bryce is the problem.
I think that Charlotte is going to spread the information about who Taylor is, because even if she doesn't do it right away, she's going to tell someone sometime.
So Taylor will let her go, but then the lesson she'll learn is she should have killed her.
Taylor will let her go because she doesn't really have a choice, but it will cause problems for her. But, like, she's not going to kill her, so, yeah.
All right, yeah. The first sentence of Infestation 11.8 begins, I could see Dr. Q grow more irritated.
Oh, is that the guy they saw before? Dr. Q? I don't remember that name at all. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I guess we're going to actually see Bryce get his medical care. We'll see what his prognosis is.
And whether we recognize that doctor.
Yeah.
Next time.
On Inchworm.
Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae. You can read Worm at parahumans.wordpress.com and support the author at patreon.com/wildvote. Follow us on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Inchworm Podcast, or find our Discord link and any other updates on inchwormpodcast.com.